Alright people, so Jesse Ventura, I mean, former wrestler, I know this is a wrestling channel, but this is mainly a political video, but he was a former wrestler. Jesse the Body Ventura has won his defamation trial case against the deceased sniper, Chris Kyle, and he won $1.8 million, and I'm happy for this verdict. Chris Kyle basically said that Jesse Ventura was bad-mouthing the SEALs at a bar in 2006, and he said the SEALs deserve to lose a few. So he basically said, Ventura said, the military deserves to lose a few people, or more specifically the Navy SEALs actually. Me being a fan of Ventura, I don't think he said that. I cannot see him saying that. Ventura is a real man. He's a real person. I don't agree with him on everything, but he's a real man, and I do agree with him on most things. He would make a great president, I think. Just he would have the best interests of the American people. And yeah, I don't agree with him on everything. I don't agree with him on immigration. I don't agree with him on minimum wage. I've been flip-flopping back with that minimum wage shit. I used to be, yeah, raise the minimum wage. I think everybody, should be able to make a living as long as you work $40 an hour. But, my view on it now is let the businesses do what they want. I've become more libertarian. Let them do what they want. And if the economy's good enough, then as it should be, and the businesses should be able to pay the employees enough money. So yeah, that's just my view on it. So I disagree with him on some things. I think he's a little too lenient to the poor and a little too socialistic. He's not as capitalistic as I would like to see him, but he still would make a great president. He's a real man, and I do believe, I think it's very possible that Chris Kyle was part of a conspiracy, if you want to call it a psyop, to frame Jesse Ventura and make him look bad. Because Jesse Ventura, he's been talking about running for president. He's been talking of, wanting to be in the White House in 2016. So, making the story is going to frame Jesse, make him look like a bad guy. And he's really not a bad guy, though. He's tells the truth, and the truth is, if he were to be president, that would really fucking crush the hopes of the globalists and the corrupt politicians and everybody in Washington who wants to corrupt America and corrupt the world. That Jesse Ventura would stop the corruption, and he wouldn't sell out to the New World Order. He wouldn't sell out to lobbyists or the banksters or whoever. He wouldn't sell out. So what do? They fabricate, a story that would make perfect sense. They fabricate a story, make him look like a bad guy. And you could see the headlines right after Chris Kyle. He wrote the book and he talked about the incident. He didn't name Ventura specifically in his book. He called him Scruff Face. And then in interviews he later named, and he said, yes, Scruff Face was Ventura. I knocked out Ventura in a bar when he badmouthed SEALs. So, it would be used perfectly to frame, Jesse Ventura. And there's no fucking way this happened either. There was, according to Jesse Ventura, he just did an interview with RT. He said none of the witnesses, all the other witnesses to this who were on Kyle's side, said that, they all had different stories, they had conflicting stories, and not one of them saw him actually getting punched. So could it be a fucking inside job? Could the government be involved? I think it's very possible. And as I was saying, like right after this happened, you could see the headlines on Fox News. Ventura gets punched by Navy SEAL Chris Kyle. you know, it was like confirmed, you know, just because Chris Kyle said, now it's fact. They were actually, you know, you could see the headlines. Like, it was right there. Ventura punched out by Chris Kyle. I mean, it was ridiculous. And actually, right before that, uh, I think it was like a few weeks before that, TMZ put out an article that Jesse Ventura got pulled over for tailgating on his way to an airport, which was false because at the time Jesse Ventura had a lawsuit against the TSA. Maybe it was more than a month, but it was right around the time that that story of Chris Kyle came out. So it was, you know, they said, oh, he's pulled over for tailgating while going to the airport. Ventura didn't fly at the time because he had a lawsuit with the TSA. So I mean, that story was false, and he called, you know, he threatened to sue, I believe, TMZ. He threatened to do something to TMZ, so they actually took the story down. And then also, Ventura goes down to Mexico. He lives in Minnesota, but he goes down to Mexico in the winter, and just ironically enough, you know, right after he crossed into Mexico, that's when the story came out. So he couldn't respond because he's not that technologically advanced. I don't even think he has a phone. So he had a tough time responding. Like right after he crossed the border, like the story came out, you know, and it made him hard. So it just coincidentally, it came out right after he went into Mexico. So, I mean, if I had to take a bet on it, I would say, yeah, you know, I think the government's involved. Corrupt politicians, corrupt New World Order, globalists are involved somehow. And Chris Kyle also was killed, you know, and I think it's very possible that, you know, they saw that this wasn't going to work, so they just sacrificed him almost, and then they could play it off like, you know, then we're not going to have a try, you know, you could go, you know, take a different route, you know, and now they're going to bash Ventura for suing Chris Kyle's wife. You know, they attacked him when he was actually suing the estate. So I mean, it was just a complete, you know, the media was just all over Ventura bashing him, but he won. The real, you know, a real man, he won. Thank God. And I've heard stories of Kyle, you know, bragging about killing people, you know, innocent people, like civilians in Iraq, and bragging about his kills, I've heard. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of people, like, bragging about that shit, you know. I mean, war is an unfortunate thing. I don't think you should be bragging about killing other people. I don't think that's a good thing to be bragging about, you know, so. But I'm glad Ventura won. Alex Jones, who's a close friend of Ventura, actually said, you know, people who said, oh, he's got $1.8 million. First off, I've heard Tara Kyle doesn't even have to pay any of it because insurance covers it for her. And also, Ventura spent so much fucking money. Alex Jones actually said Ventura's probably not even going to profit off this $1.8 million because he spent so much money trying to clear his name. So I'm glad Ventura won, and his reputation is tarnished. You know, there's little chance he's going to be president or even running for president. You know, unfortunately, maybe we'll get Rand Paul. You know, I'm hoping for Rand Paul or somebody good. You know, but Rand Paul seems like the top choice right now. You know, hopefully we don't get Hillary, but I'm afraid we might get fucking, you know, the anti-First Amendment Hillary Clinton, who said on CNN we cannot let an opinion of the minority affect the majority, basically saying unpopular speech should not be tolerated. So I mean, yeah, we're gonna get an anti-First Amendment president, you know, saying, probably playing the feminist card too. You know, just like Barack Obama, if you oppose him, you're racist. Now if you oppose Hillary, you're sexist. You're against women. So we're probably going to get her, you know, and unfortunately this has ruined Jesse Ventura. It's tarnished him. But good, you know, they ruled 8-2, the jurors, in favor of Ventura. I'm glad he won. I was following this trial, you know, seeing if he won. I was, you know, searching the news articles like every fucking day, and I'm glad he won. He deserved it. There's no way he fucking said it. You know, like he's very anti-war, and but he's very, you know, he's never bad-mouthed the veterans or anything like that. And he's a true patriot. He's a true hero in my opinion. He's one of my favorite guys. He's a real guy, and I'm glad he won because this story is fabricated. You know, there's no way Ventura would have said this. You know, the whole story just, there's no witnesses, no legitimate witnesses, nothing. So I don't see the story, you know, being true. You know, I think it's a lie. And Ventura, you know, won. So I'm glad. You know, I'm very glad. And this is a true victory for freedom, and you know, people who want freedom and people who are fans of Ventura. It's a victory not only for Ventura but for the liberty movement, patriot movement for freedom, whatever you want to call it. It's a victory for all of us and everybody who supports people like Ventura. So there you go, people. There's my video on, you know, Ventura winning this lawsuit. So there you go, people.